In April 1912, the world witnessed a symbol of human achievement, a magnificent ship, the largest and most luxurious ever built. They called her Unsinkable, a floating palace of steel and dreams, a triumph of modern engineering. But just 4 days after she set sail, that dream turned into one of the greatest tragedies in human history. This is the story of the Titanic, the ship that couldn't sink. Until it did. It all began in Belfast, Northern Ireland in 1909. The Titanic was the creation of the White Star Line, a company competing to build the grandest ocean liners in the world. Designed by Thomas Andrews and built by thousands of skilled workers, the Titanic was a marvel of its time. Over 880 feet long, weighing more than 46,000 tons, and boasting the most luxurious interiors ever seen on sea. It was said to be unsinkable, thanks to its advanced, watertight compartments and double-bottom hull. To many, the Titanic wasn't just a ship. It was the pride of progress, the proof that mankind had conquered nature. On April 10th, 1912, the Titanic set out on her maiden voyage from Southampton, England, heading for New York City. On board were more than 2,200 passengers and crew, from the richest families in the world to humble immigrants dreaming of a new life in America. There was John Jacob Astor IV, one of the wealthiest men on earth. There were newlyweds, workers, children, each carrying stories, hopes, and dreams. For 4 days, the journey was smooth, the food exquisite, the music grand, the ship majestic. No one knew they were sailing into destiny. As the Titanic sailed across the North Atlantic, messages began to arrive from nearby ships, warnings of icebergs ahead. But it was a moonless night, and the sea was unnaturally calm, making icebergs nearly invisible. At 11:40 p.m. on April 14th, the Titanic's lookout suddenly spotted a massive iceberg directly ahead. He rang the alarm. The ship turned hard to the left, but it was too late. The iceberg brushed along the ship's right side, tearing open several of her watertight compartments below the surface. At first, the impact felt mild. Many passengers didn't even realize what had happened. But within minutes, water began flooding in. Thomas Andrews examined the damage, and his face turned pale. He quietly told Captain Edward Smith, "The ship will sink! It's a mathematical certainty." The unsinkable ship had less than 2 hours to live. When the truth reached the passengers, panic and disbelief spread. There were not enough lifeboats, only enough for half the people on board. It was a decision made to preserve the ship's beauty, a fatal symbol of human arrogance. As the ship tilted, the band kept playing, trying to calm the terrified crowd. Men said goodbye to their wives and children. Some stayed behind, knowing they would never see daylight again. One witness recalled, "The ship was beautiful even as she died." At 2:20 a.m., the Titanic's lights flickered and then she disappeared beneath the freezing Atlantic. More than 1,500 people were lost that night. The sea was filled with cries, and then silence. The survivors, adrift in small lifeboats, watched in horror as the ship vanished. Minutes later, most of those in the water succumbed to the freezing cold. When the ship Carpathia arrived hours later, only around 700 people remained alive. It was the darkest dawn the world had ever seen. The world was stunned. How could the safest ship ever built sink on its first voyage? Investigations revealed a chain of human errors. Warnings ignored, lifeboats half filled, and a belief that technology was stronger than nature. But from this tragedy came change. New maritime laws required lifeboats for all, 24-hour radio watch, and regular ice patrols in the North Atlantic. The Titanic's loss forced humanity to rethink its arrogance and respect the forces beyond its control. For decades, the Titanic remained lost beneath the ocean. Then, in 1985, explorers led by Dr. Robert Ballard discovered her wreck 2 miles below the surface. Time had claimed her, but her story remained untouched, a silent monument to human pride and human courage. Even today, the Titanic rests there, a ghostly reminder of a night when dreams met destiny. The Titanic was more than a ship. It was a mirror of humanity, our brilliance and our blindness. It showed that progress without humility can sink even the greatest of creations. But it also revealed the best in us: courage, sacrifice, and love in the face of death. More than a century later, the story of the Titanic still moves hearts, reminding us that no matter how advanced we become, we must never forget the limits of human power and the strength of the human spirit. This was the Titanic, the ship that couldn't sink. A story of pride, tragedy, and timeless lessons from history's most famous disaster.